Dan Ives was just on TV and he basically said, to sum it all up, that Tesla is going through its iPhone moment. Let's take a look.
Tesla, pretty incredible run this year, more than doubling its value since January, and some think it'll only go higher next year. Top tech analyst and Tesla bull Dan Ives out with a new note saying Tesla will hit a $1 trillion market cap in the upcoming year.
Great.
A lot of people coming at you on social media about this price target, even if they're saying, well, Tesla sucks. They're coming at you from a fundamental perspective, saying, I can't do the math and the earnings, the valuation. How do you get to 350?
Tesla is where Apple was in 2008, 2009. In terms of the sum of the parts and the software piece, this is just starting, what I view as the next phase of the Tesla growth story, hits starting in 2024. And at this point, from electric vehicles, they're doubling down where others are peeling back. I think units, I think margins actually start to increase. I think this is going to be a golden year for Tesla. At the end of the year, I expect them to be above $1 trillion.
Well, did you catch that? Basically, Dan Ives is saying that Tesla right now is where Apple was in 2008, which is basically when Apple was having its major iPhone moment. So to me, that means Dan Ives is saying that Tesla is having its iPhone moment. And the next generation vehicle is not even out yet. And despite that, the Model Y is expected to be the world's best-selling car this year with over 1.2 million sales. It beat a vehicle that's so much cheaper than the Model Y. I mean, the Model Y is at least twice as expensive as the Toyota Corolla. Now, what's interesting here is the Model Y was the best-selling car globally in Q1, Q2, and Q3, but media coverage was limited without any official numbers from Tesla. So what would be really great is Tesla officially announcing how many Model Ys they sold so that everyone can actually say, yes, the Model Y is indeed the world's best-selling vehicle. Troy thinks people around Elon are too afraid to ask whether Tesla should report sales by model and region as all other manufacturers do, but Tesla can just announce this one time how many Model Ys they sold, because I think having it official that the Model Y was the best-selling vehicle in the whole world would help Tesla sell more Teslas.
Gordon Johnson, obviously a bear on Tesla, and Gordon's a great guy, comes on the show. He hasn't been right on it, but he might be at some point. We don't know. He says, he wrote on X, margins and earnings are imploding, global market share is down, and there's articles claiming that Tesla knowingly sold faulty vehicles.
Yeah, now look, to his points, what I would say here is that, first off, this is not an auto company. It's a disruptive technology company. That's why, from a valuation perspective, I think this is a stock that could be at 40, 50% in 2024 because people want a Tesla. Maybe they don't want an EV. They want a Tesla, as you talked about.
Who said that?
As the great Brian Sullivan.
Listen, it's funny. I actually talked to I met a car dealer. He watches the show. He came up to me. He owns a bunch of brands, and we started talking. And and basically he was like, yeah, I'm not selling them. I think people want Teslas. They don't want EVs because Tesla, if you've driven them all, and I have, Tesla's just a different experience. The dashboard looks different. The infotainment system is very different. It's just a different thing.
No doubt.
Than an electric-powered Audi.
Well, and you're seeing Detroit peel back. You're seeing some of the European players. And that's why this was a poker move for the ages by Musk in terms of cutting prices, going after volumes. Now they're in a position of strength. And I believe this is just the next phase of the Tesla growth story, where I don't think they stop at $1 trillion. I think there's just the middle innings.
My Tesla stock prediction is that Tesla stock will eventually go to $1 trillion and then $2 trillion and then $3 trillion and then $4 trillion. And I am personally convinced that we are not going to experience a great year after a great year after a great year after a great year. I believe right now we are going through a consolidation period, and then the stock will explode, where in 1 year it is going to go up at least a few 100%. And those that are trying to time Tesla stock are going to be in big pain if at that moment they will be out. And I believe many of them will happen to be out because there's going to be a lot of FUD around Tesla and things will seem to be not going exactly great. And then one day, oh, this is going well, and that is going well, and that is going better than expected, and that is going also better than expected. What is going on here? Well, the history is repeating itself, is what is going on.
Is Elon Musk hurt the company or help the company at this point? Because people don't realize Musk is not running Tesla. There is a management staff that's very quiet. They're not on Twitter. They just go about their job every day. But he's the face of it.
He's the golden
He
part.
created it. But there's a whole team actually running the company.
There's a team that runs it, but he is the hearts and lungs of Tesla. And that's what, from a brand perspective, as we've talked about, I still believe right now that's a contained issue relative to what's happening in Tesla. The irony is this quarter, we see a record quarter in China. So we're not actually seeing...
Even against BYD.
Even against BYD.
Which is the Chinese car company that's taken over China. I mean, and probably soon to come here.
Soon to come here, but in China, they've held their own. And I think this is going to be actually a record quarter from a China perspective. I think we go into this next year, margins increase, they gain share, and now full self-driving, I'd argue the AI piece could be $75 per share. And I think that's what we're going to be talking about 1-2 years from now.
I'm certainly expecting a record quarter in China. We will get the new latest numbers from China very, very soon. And I expect that number to be relatively great, at least certainly enough for us to believe that we will certainly have a new record quarter in China again. And with FSD, I believe that the mainstream analysts are going to be way too late to the game eventually, but they will come on board once it becomes obvious that this part of Tesla's business is also going to generate tremendous revenues. I'm not so fixated on exactly which year FSD is coming. I'm more fixated on, is full self-driving, is it actually going to happen in the tangible, relatively tangible future? And the answer to that question is absolutely yes. I mean, you just look at Waymo, for example, and Cruise. They use LiDAR though, but there are services that already work. And I believe that Tesla is going to be the first company to scale full self-driving with a vision approach, which is going to be the cheapest way to scale. The reason why you see so many ChatGPT clones is because the data is available to everyone, but you cannot just download millions of clips of vehicles being driven on the roads with camera feeds from these drives. That data is kept private, and Tesla has a lot of it, more of it than anyone else.
What if it doesn't happen? What if full self-driving just regulators don't want it, insurance companies won't insure it, something occurs? I don't know. I hope it does, because you know what? I'll sit in the car and let it drive me to work while I do my work. But what if full self-driving never occurs?
If it never occurs, then Tesla just fundamentally, when you look at some of the parts, this is a stock that still has 30-40% upside. If full self-driving happens, which we believe as we get to level 4, and I believe they lead in that race over the next decade, then you could argue this is a stock that could go toward $2 trillion over the coming years because of disruptive tech. And going back to the Apple thesis in 08, 09 services, that's why Cupertino right now is a $3 trillion market. Many thought they'd never reach $1 trillion.
So even Dan Ives believes that Tesla stock still has so much upside even if it never solves full self-driving. This is coming from a man who has not been bullish enough about Tesla stock during some important periods of time. I think he's being way too conservative with his long-term thesis here. I personally think those that invest in Tesla stock that do not have a time horizon of 10 years or more, I think these people are going to miss out on some big gains. And I need to address the question from the host. What happens? What will happen to Tesla if full self-driving never ever gets solved? And I believe that question was presented from a point of view, what if this technology never happens? I don't think he was questioning Tesla specifically. He was questioning the technology itself. And that question really shows me that the host is not very familiar with AI. It is like saying back in 1996 that the internet is maybe not really going to take over. Or in 2008 saying that smartphones with touchscreens are not going to take it over. That we will still have these little phones with keyboards without touchscreens. It is like saying that in the beginning of the 20th century, that the vehicle revolution, the cars, are now going to take over and replace horses. We already see that the technology is possible with LiDAR and HD maps. And we see what ChatGPT is capable of doing and how fast it made progress once you fed a lot of data to it. So we know the exact same thing is going to happen with full self-driving technology as well. It's not really any different. This reminds me so much of when doctors refused to wash their hands after surgery or before surgery because they wanted to look like doctors. Back then it was stylish to have blood on your hands and your clothes. That guy that brought up the idea and presented the evidence of washing hands, he was ostracized. And I believe this is not really going to change. When there is change, people are skeptical despite clear evidence provided. People only start to really change their mind after the thing has happened and there's an insurmountable amount of evidence presented to a point where you don't need to think even a tiny little bit. You see, right now, when it comes to full self-driving, you actually need to think. You need to look at ChatGPT and other models like ChatGPT, and there are so many of them now. And you need to understand that the more data you feed to AI, the better it gets. And that happens with every single model, basically. And we have seen a demo of FSD12, and that one is just built on data. You can already make a good, clear conclusion that that is the future. The more data you feed, the better it's going to get. And at some point, inevitably, it will become better than humans driving.
Very quickly, Elon Musk came out today. I think it was in a Twitter Spaces with Kathy Wood. Maybe it was yesterday. Yeah. I'm getting old. Basically saying that the stock market is kind of broken because there's too much institutional ownership and retail ownership doesn't matter enough. But Tesla, I think, is a retail investor type of stock.
And I would say that retail has been ahead of institution on this name. I mean, outside of Barron and some others. And I think now what's happening is institutions are catching up to retail in terms of what I view as a golden year ahead for Tesla.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if they are really catching up. I mean, how much attention do they pay to Tesla's energy business? Not much. You don't really hear analysts talking on TV about how Tesla's energy business now has higher margins than the auto business. And that already happened a few months ago. And you still don't really hear about it. About which I'm actually quite happy because it allows me to keep buying Tesla stock at low prices, which I will continue doing throughout all of 2024. I'm starting a new channel, Wow with Matt Posius. The reasons are many for that. I covered all of them in my New Year's resolution. The main thing is basically later on, I want to cover some of the more controversial subjects, and it helps if I can be recognized as someone who is perhaps a bit less serious overall, someone who is more of entertainer and maybe a bit of a comedian. So that channel is going to be focused on comedy, entertainment. Basically, I will find the funniest clips on the internet and I will put them together. I will react to them and then I will comment on these. And once in a while, I will put in something controversial in there as well, especially later on. In the beginning, maybe not as often, but later on, yes, I will. And what I have observed is if you are a very serious person, then it's much easier to cancel you. But if you are perceived more of an entertainer, if you can say that you are a comedian, then the likelihood of you getting canceled, I think, is a lot lower. So that's the main purpose of this channel, really. And also, I like to laugh a lot, and I will be laughing a lot. So you can subscribe to that channel. I will start uploading on it in the next few days or in the next few weeks, and the link to subscribe is down below in the description. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. Make sure to make your own New Year's resolution if you haven't yet. I made mine quickly. I shared that in the last video, so watch it if you haven't yet. One of the biggest things I have on there is to teach my 14-year-old brothers, who are twins, everything I know about money. Basically how to make between $20,000 to $100,000 a month. I'm thinking of ways how to also share that with everyone else, because it's going to be some good stuff. And it would be easier just to keep it all private, but I try to be a responsible citizen and share what I know with others as well. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. My name is Matt Posius.